The sun was dying. Everyone on knew it. The light that once filled their skis with golden warmth now flickered like a candle in the wind. Each day grew darker. Each night grew colder. The Vel people watched their world fade and they felt afraid. Elder stood at the window of the High Council chamber. His blue skin had grown pale with age, and his thin fingers trembled as he held the latest reports. 3 generations. That was all they had left. 3 generations before total darkness would swallow their world forever. The Vel were a gentle people. Their bodies were thin and fragile, but their minds were brilliant. They had created beautiful art, written countless books, and discovered secrets of the universe that other species could only dream about. But none of that mattered now. Knowledge could not save them from a dying star. For 200 years, the Vel had sent signals into space. They begged for help. They asked for refuge. They promised to share their technology, their knowledge, anything at all. The answers they received broke their hearts. The Dominion, a powerful empire of warrior species, ignored them completely. Their messages went unanswered, as if the Vel did not even exist. The Collective, a group of cold and logical beings, responded with a simple demand. They wanted all Vel technology and research. In exchange, they would allow some Vel to live as workers on distant mining worlds. It was not salvation. It was slavery with extra steps. The Empire laughed at them. Their response was cruel and short. They told the Vel to die quietly and stop bothering important species with their problems. Hope faded with each passing year. The Council stopped sending signals. What was the point? No one cared about a dying world filled with peaceful people who had nothing to offer but their minds. Then Sira found something. She was young, barely 30 cycles old, which was considered very young for a Vel scientist. Her job was simple. She monitored old communication systems that most people had forgotten about. It was boring work, but Sira did not mind. She liked the quiet. One night while everyone else slept, her screen lit up with a message. Sira stared at it for a long time. She read it again and again, certain she was making a mistake. The message came from a small blue planet called Earth. The species living there called themselves humans. By galactic standards, they were primitives. They had only been traveling through space for about 500 years. Most powerful species considered them children playing with dangerous toys. But the humans had answered. The message was simple. It had none of the complex language or hidden meanings that other species used. It said exactly what it meant. We received your signal. Help is coming. Hold on. Sira ran to Elder's home in the middle of the night. She did not care about proper manners or official channels. This was too important. She banged on his door until the old Vel opened it with confusion in his tired eyes. When he read the message, went very still. He read it 3 times just as Sira had done. Then he looked at her with an expression she would never forget. It was hope, pure, desperate hope. The council met the next morning. Arguments filled the chamber like thunder. Many members did not trust the humans. They were too primitive. They had nothing to offer. Some even suggested the message might be a trap set by the Dominion to crush what remained of Vel pride. Listened to all of them. Then he raised his hand for silence. I understand your fears, he said, his old voice steady and calm. I share them. We have been hurt before. We have been ignored, rejected, and mocked. But consider this simple truth. In 200 years of calling for help, the humans are the only ones who answered. The only ones. Does that not mean something? The chamber fell silent. Perhaps they are primitive, continued. Perhaps they cannot truly help us, but they are willing to try. That is more than any other species has offered. I say we accept their help and see what happens. We have nothing left to lose. The vote was close, but words won. The Vel would trust the humans. 40 cycles passed. Life continued on, though the cold grew worse each day. Some people forgot about the human message. Others lost faith. Surely, they said, if help was coming, it would have arrived by now. Sira never lost faith. She watched the skis every night, searching for any sign of ships. Her friends worried about her. They said she was wasting her time, but Sira remembered the message. Help is coming, hold on. She was watching on the night they arrived. At first, she thought her equipment was broken. The readings made no sense. Dozens of ships appeared from nowhere, dropping out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. But when Sira looked closer, her heart nearly stopped. These were not the small, simple vessels she had expected from a primitive species. These were warships, real warships with weapons and armor and shields. They gleamed in the darkness like stars made of metal. And behind the warships came something even more incredible. Massive transport ships, bigger than anything the Vel had ever built. They moved slowly, protected by their military escorts, carrying unknown cargo toward. Sierra contacted the Council immediately. Within hours, every Vel on the planet knew. The humans had come. Admiral Park stood on the bridge of her flagship, the UES Resolve. She was 58 years old, with gray hair cut short and eyes that had seen too many battles. Some people thought she was cold because she rarely smiled. Those people did not know her at all. Park had spent her entire career rescuing people from impossible situations. Colonists trapped on failing stations. Refugees fleeing wars. Scientists stranded on hostile worlds. When the message from reached Earth, she volunteered before anyone else could speak. Now, looking at the pale blue world on her screens, she felt the familiar fire in her chest. These people needed help. Earth had sent her to provide it. Nothing else mattered. She opened a channel to the planet below. Her voice traveled through the void, reaching every Vel who listened. People of this is Admiral Park of the United Earth Relief Fleet. We received your call and we have come. We brought engineers to build what you need. We brought scientists to solve your problems. We brought soldiers to keep you safe. And we brought something else. She paused, looking at the cargo lists on her personal screen. Food, medicine, building materials, power generators, everything a dying world might need. We brought hope, Park said. Earth stands with you. You are not alone anymore. On the surface, Elder listened to the message with tears running down his blue cheeks. Around him, Vel citizens gathered in the streets, looking up at the sky where human ships now orbited like guardian angels. Sierra stood among them, her heart full of joy she could not express. She thought about the simple message that had changed everything. Help is coming. Hold on. They had held on, and humanity had arrived. The transport ships opened their doors, and the Vel learned their first lesson about humans. They never did anything small. Thousands of people poured onto, engineers carrying tools, scientists clutching data tablets, workers ready to build. They came from every country on Earth, speaking different languages, wearing different clothes, but sharing one purpose. They had come to save a world. Minyu stepped off the first shuttle with his team close behind. He was 45 years old, with strong hands covered in old scars from decades of construction work. His face was tired, but his eyes were sharp. Minyu had built space stations, orbital platforms, and colonies on hostile moons. This job would be his greatest challenge yet. A group of Vel officials waited to greet him. They looked nervous. Minyu understood. These people had spent centuries calling for help that never came. Now strangers from a primitive world were walking on their soil, promising miracles. Of course they were afraid. Minyu bowed respectfully in the human way. Then he got straight to work. "Show me your geological surveys," he said through the translation device on his collar. "I need to see what is under your surface." The Vel exchanged confused glances. They had expected meetings, discussions, negotiations. Instead, this human wanted to look at rocks. Elder stepped forward. His old face showed curiosity instead of fear. "May I ask what you are planning?" Minyu pulled out a small projector and activated it. A hologram appeared in the air, showing complex blueprints that made the Vel engineers gasp. "Your son is dying," Minyu said, matter of. "You cannot stop that. No one can. But you do not need your son to survive. We are going to build you new ones." The hologram showed massive underground chambers carved into the planet. Inside each chamber hung an artificial sun, a fusion-powered ball of light and heat that would burn for thousands of years. The chambers were connected by tunnels and transport systems. Parks, homes, and farms filled the spaces between. "We will build you cities underground," Minyu explained. "Complete cities with everything you need. Fresh air, clean water, growing food, comfortable homes. Your surface will freeze, but your people will live." The Vel stared at the plans in stunned silence. This was not what they expected. They thought the humans might help them escape to another world. Instead, these strangers wanted to rebuild their entire planet. A young Vel engineer named pushed through the crowd. His blue skin was darker than most, and his eyes held the sharp intelligence of someone who understood machines. "This is impossible," said bluntly. "We have studied underground construction for decades. The challenges are too great. The power requirements alone would drain every resource we have." Minyu looked at him with something like respect. Finally, someone who spoke his language. You are right, Minyu admitted. With your current technology, this would be impossible, but we brought our own technology, human technology. It is not as elegant as yours, but it works. Trust me. Did not trust him, but he also could not look away from those beautiful blueprints. I want to work with you, said. I want to see how you build these things. Minyu smiled for the first time since landing. Good. I could use someone who knows this world. Welcome to the team. The work began immediately. Human drilling machines bit into the ground, carving tunnels with incredible speed. Vel scientists watched in amazement as mountains of rock and dirt were processed, sorted, and recycled into building materials. Nothing was wasted. Everything had a purpose. Meanwhile, Doctor led a different kind of team. She was 34, who specialized in alien life forms. Her job was simple but critical. She needed to make sure human technology would not harm the Vel or their ecosystem. Spent weeks studying Vel biology. She learned that their blue skin absorbed nutrients from their sun, similar to how plants used photosynthesis. She discovered that they needed specific temperature ranges to stay healthy. She found out something even more interesting. The Vel were empaths. They could sense emotions from other beings. Not thoughts, just feelings. Joy, sadness, anger, love. The Vel felt everything around them like invisible waves in the air. This explained why they were so gentle. Violence hurt them twice, once from the act itself and once from the emotions it created. War was almost unthinkable for their species. It would drive them mad. Shared this discovery with Admiral Park during their weekly meeting. That is why they seem so nervous around us, explained. Humans feel things very strongly. Our emotions must be overwhelming for them. Park nodded thoughtfully. What are they sensing from us now? Smiled, hope, determination, a genuine desire to help. They can tell we mean what we say. They can feel that we care about them. This information spread quickly among the human workers. They began to understand why some Vel cried when talking to them. The aliens were not sad. They were overwhelmed by the sincerity they felt from these strange visitors. Weeks turned into months. The underground cities took shape with remarkable speed. Human engineers worked double shifts without complaint. When Vel workers tried to match their pace, Minyu forced them to rest. We did not come here to kill you with exhaustion, he said firmly. Let us handle the heavy work. Your job is to make sure we are doing it right. Became Minyu's shadow. He watched everything the human engineer did, asking questions constantly. At first, he questioned human methods. Their machines were loud and rough compared to Vel technology. Their solutions were simple, sometimes almost crude. But they worked, they always worked. Why do you build this way? Asked one day, watching humans construct a power generator. Your design is not efficient. Our methods would use less energy. Minyu wiped sweat from his forehead. You are right. Your methods are more efficient, but ours are faster and stronger. When you have time, efficiency matters. When people are dying, speed matters more. We can improve things later. Right now, we need to save your people. Thought about that for a long time. The Vel spent years perfecting things before building them. Humans built first and perfected later. Both approaches had value. Together, they might create something amazing. One evening, Elder visited the construction site. He moved slowly, his old body struggling with the cold that grew worse each day. Admiral Park walked beside him, offering her arm for support. They stood at the edge of a massive pit that would become the first underground city. Below them, humans and Vel worked side by side, their combined effort creating something neither species could build alone. Why did you come? Asked quietly. The galaxy ignored us. Powers far greater than Earth refused to help. Why did you answer? Park was silent for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was soft. A long time ago, humanity almost destroyed itself. Wars, disease, climate disasters. We came very close to extinction, but we survived because people helped each other. Strangers saved strangers. Enemies became friends. We learned that helping others is not weakness. It is strength. She turned to face the old Vel leader. Her eyes held the fire that burned inside every human who had come to this dying world. You called for help, we came. That is what humans do. We do not ask if it is possible. We do not calculate if it is worth our effort. We see people in need and we help them. It is that simple. Felt her emotions wash over him like warm light. She meant every word. There was no deception, no hidden agenda, just pure, honest compassion. Tears rolled down his blue cheeks. "We have been alone for so long. We forgot that kindness existed in the universe. Thank you for reminding us." Park smiled gently. "You are not alone anymore. You never will be again." Above them, the dying sun cast its fatting light across the land. But below, in the growing tunnels and chambers, artificial lights blazed with promise. A new world was being born beneath the old one. Then the sensors picked up something moving toward them through space. Something big, something dangerous. The Dominion had finally noticed. The Dominion fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel like sharks smelling blood. 60 warships arranged in perfect attack formation, their hulls covered with weapons designed to break worlds. They had come to take what they wanted, as they always did. Supreme Commander stood on his bridge, looking at the tiny human fleet with amusement. His species were born warriors, massive creatures with thick gray skin and 4 powerful arms. They had conquered hundreds of worlds. They had crushed countless rebellions. These primitive humans would be no different. Opened a communication channel. His voice boomed through every speaker in the system. "Attention, human vessels. This world has been claimed by the Dominion. The Vel are leaving, which makes their planet abandoned property. You have 1 standard hour to withdraw your ships and personnel. Failure to comply will result in your destruction." On the bridge of the Resolve, Admiral Park listened to the message with a calm expression. Her officers watched her nervously. The numbers were terrible. 60 Dominion ships against their 20, 3-to-1 odds, and the enemy ships were larger. Park opened her own channel. Her voice carried across the void, reaching every ship in the system, both human and Dominion. "This is Admiral Park of the United Earth Fleet. The people have requested our help. We are here to provide it. This world is under our protection." She paused, letting her words sink in. "We will not leave. We will not surrender. If you want this planet, you will have to come through us. And I promise you, Dominion Commander, that will cost you dearly." Laughed the sound harsh and cruel. "You think 20 ships can stop us? Your species has been in space for 500 years. We have been conquering for 5,000. This is not a battle. This is an execution." Park smiled. It was not a warm smile. "Then come and execute us." The channel closed. On every human ship, crews prepared for battle. They knew the odds. They knew they might die. Not one of them asked to leave. Captain Sara stood on the bridge of her destroyer, the Defiant. She was 39 years old, with short black hair and eyes that never missed anything. Her crew called her the Ghost because she could move her ship through spaces that seemed impossible. "All stations report ready," her first officer announced. Sora nodded. "Good, remember what we practiced. They are bigger than us. They are stronger than us, but we are faster and smarter. Let them come." The Dominion fleet moved forward. 60 ships against 20. By any calculation, the humans should run. Instead, they formed a defensive line between the enemy and. On the planet below, Vel citizens gathered around screens showing the confrontation. Stood beside Minu in the half-finished underground city, watching the tiny human ships face the massive enemy armada. "They should retreat," said, his voice tight with fear. "They cannot win this fight. Why are they staying?" Minu did not look away from the screen. "Because we do not abandon people, ever. They will die. Maybe, but they will die protecting your world. That means something to us." Felt the human's emotions washing over him. No fear, no regret, just iron determination and something else. Something that felt like love for people he had never met. The first shots lit up the void. Dominion ships fired massive energy beams designed to crack through planetary shields. The blasts screamed toward the human line with terrible force. Any sane fleet would scatter. The humans did not scatter. "All ships execute pattern Delta," Park commanded. The human vessels moved as one, diving and spinning in perfect coordination. The Dominion beams passed through empty space where ships had been moments before. Before the enemy could adjust their aim, human weapons answered. Human ships were smaller and carried fewer guns, but their targeting systems were incredibly precise. Instead of trying to destroy Dominion ships with overwhelming firepower, they aimed for critical systems. Engines, weapon ports, sensor arrays, death by 1,000 cuts. Watched in confusion as his ships began taking damage without landing a single hit on the enemy. These primitives fought like nothing he had ever seen. They refused to stand still. They refused to die properly. "Flank them," he ordered. "Surround and crush." 20 Dominion ships broke from the main formation, moving to encircle the human fleet. It was a standard tactic that had worked countless times before. Smaller forces could not defend against attacks from all directions. Captain Sora watched the flanking move develop. She had been waiting for exactly this. Navigation, calculate jump coordinates. Combat close, right behind their flagship. Her navigation officer turned pale. Captain, that jump is too short. The margin for error is almost nothing. If we miss, we will appear inside their ship. Sora smiled her ghost smile. Then do not miss. The Defiant vanished from normal space. For one terrible moment, she existed in the strange place between jumps, where normal rules did not apply. Then she reappeared directly behind's flagship, so close that her crew could see individual hull plates. Fire everything, Sora ordered. The Defiant unleashed her entire arsenal at point-blank range. She could not destroy the massive flagship, but she did not need to. Her shots tore through the ship's engines, leaving the Dominion commander drifting helplessly. Other human ships followed her lead. They jumped short distances around the battlefield, appearing where the enemy did not expect, striking hard, then vanishing again. The Dominion fleet, designed for straight confrontations, could not adapt. Roared with fury, his flagship was crippled, a dozen of his ships were damaged, and he still had not destroyed a single human vessel. All ships, focus fire on any target you can hit, he commanded desperately. The battle turned brutal. With focused fire, the Dominion finally began scoring hits. A human frigate exploded. Then another. Lieutenant, weapons officer on the cruiser Valor, watched friends die on his screens. He was 28 years old, young for his position. His hands shook as he targeted enemy ships, but he did not stop firing. He could not stop, not while others depended on him. Valor, Defiant, converge on the command cluster, Park ordered. We need to break their coordination. 6 human ships drove directly into the heart of the enemy formation. It was insane. It was suicide. It was exactly what humans did when people needed saving. Watched his targeting computer light up with solutions. So many enemies. So many chances to die. He picked his targets carefully, aiming for the ships that threatened his allies. One shot disabled a destroyer's weapons. Another crippled a cruiser's shields. A third struck a battleship's magazine, triggering an explosion that took out 2 nearby vessels. The Dominion formation broke. Ships that had fought as a unified fleet now scattered in confusion. Their commander was disabled. Their coordination was shattered, and the humans kept coming. After 6 hours of constant fighting, transmitted surrender. Park answered from her battered bridge. Smoke filled the air. Blood stained her uniform from a wound she had ignored, but her voice was steady. You will withdraw from this system immediately. You will not return, and you will tell everyone in the Dominion what happened here today. Image on the screen twisted with rage. You have made a powerful enemy, human. The Dominion will remember this insult. Park leaned forward, her eyes burning with cold fire. Good, remember it well, and remember this. Earth protects its friends always. The Dominion fleet limped away, leaving behind wreckage and shame. They had come with 60 ships. They left with 43, many of them damaged. The humans had lost 4 ships. Every death hurt. Every name would be remembered. But they had won. Against impossible odds, they had won. On Vel, citizens watched the enemy retreat. They felt the emotions radiating from orbit, exhaustion and grief mixed with fierce pride. These humans had bled for them. Strangers had died so the Vel could live. Turned to Minu with new understanding in his eyes. Why, he asked simply, why would they die for us? Minu finally looked away from the screen. His eyes were wet. Because that is who we are. That is what we do. Now come on, we have cities to build. Above them, human ships maintained their guard. Below them, construction continued. The work would not stop. The promise would not be broken. But across the galaxy, the Dominion transmitted warnings to every major power. The humans had won, and that changed everything. 2 years passed like a dream made of hard work and growing hope. The surface grew colder each day. Ice spread across lands that once held gardens. Snow fell on cities that had stood for 1,000 years. The dying sun gave less and less light until the sky seemed permanently stuck in twilight. But below the surface, a miracle was being born. Director Na stood at the entrance to the first completed underground city. She was 52 years old, with lines on her face that told stories of sleepless nights and impossible decisions. For 2 years, she had coordinated the migration of millions, making sure every Vel citizen reached safety. Today was the final day. The last group of surface dwellers would walk into their new home. The tunnel stretched before her, wide enough for hundreds to walk side by side. Lights lined the walls, growing brighter as the path descended. At the end, she could see it, the grand cavern, the heart of New. Elder walked beside her, his steps slow but steady. Age had taken much from him, but his eyes still held the spark of hope that had kept his people alive through the darkest years. "I never thought I would see this," he said quietly. "A world beneath a world, suns that we built with our own hands. 2 years ago we were preparing to die. Now we are preparing to live." Smile gently. That is what hope does. It changes everything. They entered the grand cavern together and stopped walking. His breath caught in his throat. Even after seeing it many times, the sight still amazed him. The cavern was enormous, carved from living rock by human machines in Vel precision. Its ceiling stretched so high that clouds formed beneath it, real clouds that drifted peacefully in the artificial air. And hanging at the center, blazing with warm light, was their new sun. The fusion core burned with steady fire, its glow indistinguishable from the natural star that had nurtured their species for millions of years. Minyu's team had built 7 of these artificial suns across the underground network. Each one would burn for 10,000 years before needing fuel. Below the sun, the city spread in all directions. Homes built into the cavern walls, parks with real trees and grass, rivers fed by underground springs, markets, schools, hospitals, everything a civilization needed to survive and grow. Vel citizens filled the streets, their blue skin glowing softly under the artificial light. Children ran and played, their laughter echoing off the stone walls. For the first time in generations, they did not fear the future. Minyu stood near the central plaza, directing final construction crews. He looked older than he had 2 years ago. Gray had spread through his hair, and his hands bore new scars from countless accidents, but he was smiling. Walked up beside him, tablet in hand. The young Vel engineer had changed too. His early skepticism had transformed into deep respect and genuine friendship. "The power systems are stable," reported. "Environmental controls are optimal. We are ready for the celebration." Minyu nodded, satisfaction warming his tired bones. "Good work. Could not have done it without you." "Could not have done it without your insane human determination," replied with a small smile. "I still do not understand how you worked so hard for so long. It should not be possible." "Stubbornness," Minyu said. "We are too stubborn to know when something is impossible, so we just keep working until it becomes possible." Doctor joined them, her research finally complete. Over 2 years, she had worked with Vel scientists to adapt human technology for alien biology. The artificial suns produced exactly the right light for Vel's skin. The air carried nutrients they needed. Everything worked in harmony. "The biological integration is perfect," she announced. "Your people can live here indefinitely. Multiple generations, maybe forever, as long as we maintain the systems." Reached them in time to hear her words. His old eyes filled with tears. "Forever," he repeated. "We were facing extinction. Now we have forever. How can we ever repay you?" Looked at him with warmth. "You do not owe us anything. We did this because it was right. That is all the payment we need." The celebration began as the last surface dwellers entered the cavern. Humans and Vel gathered together, sharing food and music and stories. The two species that had started as strangers had become something more: family, friends, partners in survival. Ambassador made his first official speech as Earth's representative too. He was 61, a former soldier who had traded weapons for words. His voice carried across the crowded plaza. "Today marks the beginning of a new era, not just for the Vel, but for all beings who believe that compassion matters. 2 years ago, a dying world called for help. Earth answered, not because we expected reward, not because it was easy. We answered because we believe that all thinking beings deserve a chance to live." He paused, looking at the sea of faces before him. Blue Vel skin next to human features of every shade. 2 species standing together. "This partnership is not ending today. It is beginning. Human and Vel working together, learning from each other, building a future neither of us could create alone. The galaxy may see us as primitives and refugees. Let them. We know what we are. We are hope made real." The crowd cheered, emotions swelling like a tide. The Vel felt the sincerity of every human present. The humans saw the joy shining in Vel eyes. Both species shared something words could not express. But while the celebration continued below, Admiral Park received troubling news in orbit. She sat alone in her quarters, reading intelligence reports with a grim expression. The Dominion had not forgotten their defeat. They had spent 2 years preparing something terrible. A knock came at her door. Captain Sora entered, her face serious. "You have seen the reports," Park said. It was not a question. Sora nodded. "The Galactic Pact. The Dominion convinced the Collective, the Empire, and 3 other major powers to join against us. They call themselves the Pact now. Their first declared goal is eliminating the human presence in this sector." Park closed her eyes. 5 of the most powerful forces in the galaxy, united against Earth, and the enemy fleet being assembled was over 500 ships, 25 times the size of their current defense force. "They want revenge," Park said quietly. "We embarrassed them. We showed the galaxy that the Dominion could be beaten. They cannot allow that to stand." "What do we do?" Sora asked. Park stood and walked to her window. The planet below looked peaceful, its surface dark but its depths glowing with life. "We fight. What else can we do? We made a promise to these people. We will not break it." "The odds are impossible." "The odds were impossible 2 years ago. We won anyway." Sora smiled despite everything. That was why she followed this woman. Park never surrendered, never accepted defeat. Even when mathematics said they should lose, she found a way to win. "I will have the fleet ready," Sora said. Park turned back to face her. "Call back everyone we can spare from Earth. Call our allies. Call anyone willing to stand with us. If this is our last fight, we will make sure the galaxy remembers it." The orders went out that night. Ships across human space changed course toward. Volunteers flooded recruitment centers. Earth had never backed down from a fight, and they would not start now. Below in the Grand Cavern, the celebration continued. Humans and Vel danced together under artificial starlight, unaware that a storm was coming. But when they learned the truth, something remarkable happened. The Vel did not run. They did not hide. They stood up and asked how they could help. Because humanity had taught them something precious, something they had forgotten during centuries of being ignored. They were not alone anymore, and together they would face whatever came. The Galactic Pact fleet arrived like a storm made of metal and fire. 512 warships emerged from faster-than-light travel, their combined mass darkening the stars. It was the largest military force assembled in 300 years, gathered for one purpose: the destruction of humanity. Admiral Park stood on the bridge of the Resolve, watching the enemy fleet spread across her screens like a plague. Her own forces numbered 34 ships, 15-1 odds. No tactical genius could overcome those numbers. "All hands, this is the Admiral," she announced through the ship-wide channel. "You have all seen what we face. I will not lie to you. Many of us will not survive this day, but I want you to remember why we are here." She paused, feeling the weight of every life depending on her words. "Below us is a world we saved, a people who called for help when everyone else turned away. We answered that call. We kept our promise. Today we will keep it again, no matter the cost, because that is who we are. That is what humans do." Throughout the fleet, crews stood a little. Fear did not vanish, but it found company with pride and determination. Captain Sora moved her ship into formation, the Defiant ready for one more impossible fight. Commander, now leading his own vessel, followed close behind. Every human ship in the system took position between the enemy and... Then something unexpected happened. His voice crackled through the communication channels, broadcasting from the planet below. "Admiral Park, this is the Vel Defense Council. We have voted unanimously. We will not evacuate. We stand with you." Park felt her heart tighten. "You need to survive. Your people need to survive. We can hold them long enough for evacuation ships to escape." "No," said firmly. "You came for us when no one else would. You bled for us. You died for us. We will not abandon you now. Our ships are old and weak, but they are yours to command, and we have something else to offer." Within hours, Vel scientists integrated their technology with every human vessel. Their sensors could track enemy ships with incredible precision. Their shield harmonics strengthened human defenses. Their communication systems allowed perfect coordination across the entire fleet. Minyu watched from the underground city as Vel and human engineers worked together in orbit. He had stayed behind to protect the civilians, ready to seal the tunnels if the worst happened. But watching his two peoples combine their strengths gave him hope he had not expected to feel. "They are not alone anymore," he said to no one in particular. "Neither are we." The battle began with the largest weapons barrage in recorded history. 500 packed ships fired simultaneously, their combined firepower enough to crack a moon. The sky above turned white with deadly light. Human and Vel ships moved as one, guided by shared sensors and unbreakable trust. They dodged through the storm of fire with precision that seemed impossible. Shots that should have destroyed them missed by meters. Return fire struck enemy vessels with perfect accuracy. Commander, restored to his position after begging the packed leaders for another chance, watched in disbelief. The humans were not dying. They were fighting back. "Focus fire on their flagship," he ordered. "Kill their admiral." 30 packed ships turned their weapons on the Resolve. Park saw the targeting locks and made her decision. "All ships scatter and engage. Do not cluster around me. Fight your own battles." Her officers protested. She silenced them with a look. The Resolve took hit after hit. Shields failed. Hull breaches opened. Crew members died at their stations, but Park kept fighting, directing her remaining weapons with cold precision. Sora watched the flagship struggle. Her heart screamed at her to help, but she had orders and she trusted Park's judgment. The Defiant tore through enemy formations like a knife, destroying sensor arrays and weapon systems on a dozen ships. His vessel covered her flank, his accuracy turning enemy advantages into wreckage. For hours the battle raged. Human and Vel ships fell one by one, but for every defender lost, 3 packed vessels were disabled or destroyed. The humans refused to die quietly. They made every shot count. Then the packed Supreme flagship began moving toward itself, a massive dreadnought bristling with planet-killing weapons. If it reached firing range, nothing could save the people below. Park saw it coming. Her ship was crippled, most of her crew dead, her weapons barely functional, but she still had engines. "Navigation," she said calmly. "Set collision course, maximum speed." The bridge fell silent. Everyone understood what she was asking. "Admiral," her first officer whispered, "there has to be another way." Park shook her head. Her eyes found the planet on her screens, the world she had sworn to protect. "There is no other way, and I regret nothing." She opened the fleet channel one last time. "All hands, this is Admiral Park. It has been my honor serving with you. Continue the fight, protect, that is my final order." The Resolve accelerated. Engine power diverted from everything else. Life support failed. Lights went dark. The ship became a missile carrying the last of her crew toward destiny. Sora screamed into her communication system, begging Park to stop. Fired everything he had at packed ships trying to intercept. Vel vessels threw themselves into the path of enemy weapons. The Resolve struck the dreadnought at full speed. The explosion lit up the void like a new star. Both ships vanished in a flash that could be seen from the planet's surface. Park and her crew gave their lives in an instant, taking the enemy's greatest weapon with them. The packed fleet froze. Their supreme commander was dead. Their flagship was gone. Their communications were shattered by the blast. And the humans kept coming. Sora took command without hesitation. Grief would come later. Now there was only the fight. "All ships press the attack. Do not let their sacrifice mean nothing." Human and Vel vessels surged forward. The packed formation, already damaged and confused, collapsed into chaos. Ships that had never lost a battle suddenly found themselves outmaneuvered by smaller, faster, angrier enemies. By the time the artificial dawn rose over the underground cities, the packed fleet was routing. Over 200 ships destroyed. Another 102 damaged to fight. The survivors fled in all directions, their alliance shattered by a single day of impossible resistance. The humans had lost 16 ships. Every name would be remembered, every sacrifice honored. Below, Vel citizens emerged into the grand cavern to hear the news. They had won. Against impossible odds, against the combined might of galactic powers, they had won. Elder addressed both species one final time. His voice was weak, his body failing, but his words carried across millions. "We asked humans for refuge. They arrived with leaders who stood firm when running was wiser. They arrived with engineers who built us a new world when ours was dying. They arrived with warriors who bled and died for strangers. He paused, tears flowing freely. But those were not their greatest gifts. They arrived with hope, and they taught us that hope, once shared, becomes unbreakable. On Earth, statues rose for the fallen. Admiral Park's memorial stood in Geneva, bearing her image and a simple inscription. They called, we came. On the underground, cities flourished. Human and Vel children grew up together, learning both languages, celebrating both cultures. Some humans stayed permanently. Some Vel traveled to Earth. The two peoples had become one family. Minyu never left. He married a Vel partner named Sira, the same astronomer who had first received Earth's message. Together, they designed the next generation of underground cities. Sara became admiral, leading the joint Human-Vel Defense Force. Under her command, no enemy ship ever threatened again. Became the first Vel ambassador to Earth. He spent his life building bridges between worlds, remembering always the human engineer who had taught him that impossible was just a word. And across the galaxy, species who had watched the battle of learned something that changed everything. The humans were small. The humans were young. The humans were technically primitive by galactic standards. But they protected their friends, they kept their promises, and they never ever gave up. In the centuries that followed, when other dying worlds called for help, when other refugees begged for shelter, when other victims prayed for rescue, Earth always answered. They called, we came. That was humanity's gift to the galaxy. Not technology, not wealth, not military power. Just the simple promise that no one had to face the darkness alone. And that made all the difference.